We extend our deepest condolences to the family and friends of John Andrew Smith, who passed away this weekend on Saturday, June 20th at Electric Daisy Carnival in Las Vegas. We're deeply saddened by this tragedy, as the health and safety of our fans is always Insomniac's first priority. While John's cause of death is yet to be determined, we ask that you all keep his loved ones in your thoughts and your prayers. Further information will be provided to the public as our investigation continues, but till then we ask that everyone be safe, be aware, and always put your health and safety at first priority. So the bridging technique is an essential tool to use to control a media interview. Essentially, the bridging technique is used to allow an interviewee, a person getting interviewed, to bridge from a negative or difficult question asked by an interviewer to a positive key message and to saying positive statements that puts an organization in a positive light. So for example, taking Insomniac's current crisis at hand with the death of an attendee, one of the questions we might get asked in a press conference is, how do you feel knowing that that young people are abusing drugs and alcohol at an event that is putting their health and safety in danger? So in which case, the best response would be to first start with a couple of words that directly addresses the question, such as saying, at Insomniac, we are deeply saddened to hear when a tragedy like this occurs. And then you'd use a bridging statement like, what matters most is that, and then we'd go on to say an answer such as, what matters most is that health and safety is always Insomniac's first priority when producing events, and we always strive to create a safe environment for all. So already through that example alone, we took a negative and difficult question such as, how do you feel when young people are abusing and their health and safety is in danger at your events, to bridging it over to health and safety is always our number one priority at Insomniac, and so we do care a lot for our attendees. So a couple of examples of bridging statements that can be used is things like, what I've said comes down to this, or let me emphasize again, let me reiterate, or like what I said just now, what matters most in this situation is. Having said that, there are definitely other examples to use for bridging statements, if not those statements in particular. One good way would be to tying the question back to the audience. So for example, the same question, how do you feel knowing that drug culture is so highly associated to rave culture, which is what Insomniac, the kind of culture that Insomniac kind of produces their events around. So you could say something like, I understand that the concern here is the talk of drug culture and young people's health and safety being in danger. So I understand that. So that could also be an example of a bridging statement because it ties directly back to the audience and letting them be aware that it's like, hey, I understand where you're coming from. Having said that, obviously there's difficult and negative questions. So sometimes it's just really hard being able to answer a question, or sometimes you just don't know the answer. In that case, the best way to answer those questions would be to say, I won't speculate. Or I get this question very often and it doesn't get any easier anytime I answer, just because there is no easy answer. So being really honest and upfront with the reporters and interviewers too about difficult questions will also create a level of trust and like, okay, at least you're honest. You don't know the question. You don't know the answer. But in conclusion, just remember that bridging statements aren't used to avoid answering specific questions. Instead, they're used to bridge negative questions to positive answers. So you should never try and avoid a question. So bridging statements aren't used to like ever avoid a question. You should definitely, they're just ways to have an organization state their key messages out and to put the organization in the best and positive light.